Genocides happen in every corner of the world, to every type of people. The numbers in the past 100 years are staggering. The Turks slaughtered more than 1 million Armenians during World War I. In the 1930s and 40s, the Japanese killed millions across Asia. In the Soviet Union, the estimated number of deaths in the Gulag camps and beyond is more than 8 million. The Germans slaughtered 6 million Jews and millions more during World War II. In the 1950s and 60s, the Communist Chinese killed an estimated 30 million. And during the 1970s, the Khmer Rouge killed 1.7 million Cambodians, fully 20% of that country's population. Bosnia, Rwanda, Congo, Darfur. All told, in our time, there have been more than 100 million innocent victims of genocide. The notion that ordinary people would willfully butcher other people, torture them, including children, slaughter them, is a very disturbing notion to people, particularly if they're looking upon people with whom they identify. And so they seek explanations which are more, I wouldn't say more comforting, but less threatening to them. People need to understand that nothing is inevitable about genocide. It boils down to a series of choices. Leaders choose to initiate the killing. Ordinary people make a conscious choice to participate. And those with the power to prevent or stop it choose to do nothing. I started my journey mindful that there has never been a time during the past century when our planet was free of mass murder, including now.
For 5 long years, Darfur has been a scene of devastation and destruction. 300,000 people have died and 2.5 million have fled their homes as the Sudanese government has tried to crush a rebellion against its rule.
The plight of Darfur has moved people of conscience around the world and has only intensified my desire to know more. To see the places where the horrors have happened, meet the people who were there, and ask the kinds of questions you have to ask, even though sometimes you may dread hearing the answer. When the genocide began, what happened to you?
Genocide itangiye we byakugendekeye bite?
And your family?
Na famiye yawe.
Hari rero papa umbyara bamwishe bamutemaguje imihoro.
She said her dad was killed like he was, chopped, he was cut with the machete.
Na mama nuko baramutemaguye nawe.
And the mom was chopped, the way she's saying it, she was chopped with the machete.
Na musaza wanjye wankurikiraga nawe baramutemaguye.
And the brother was also.
Who killed her family? Were these just local people who lived here?
N'abantu babaga hano hafi basanzwe.
Babaturanyi twari duturanye ari n'inshuti.
She says they were neighbors. More to that, they were even friends to the family.
Tuzi ko byari bimeze kuko nk'uwo wishe papa n'umuntu yari yarahaye nk'ari inshuti ku buryo yavugaga ati muze dumba nkungishirize yo mwese turabaho. Ariko ntago tuzi ahantu byakomotse kugira ngo.
In genocide after genocide, these are the questions that continue to be asked. How do neighbors end up turning against neighbors? Why do the killers kill? Here in Rwanda, more than 800,000 men, women, and children were killed over the course of 3 months. Most were ethnic Tutsi, murdered by members of the Hutu majority, face to face with machetes, clubs, and guns. I find it hard to understand, and I want to understand, how people could approach other people who are begging for their lives and screaming in pain and chop them.
Cyo ni ikibazo gikomeye cyane kugisubiza kuko iyo ujya kugikora ubona nawe ufite umubiri mu by'ukuri
It's a very tough question to answer because they have the same flesh like yours.
biranababaje cyane nk'umwana iyo yakuririraga ubona ari agahinja gatoya njye ntabwo nigeze nica akana ariko twageze ukigaya ukabona nk'akana gato cyane kakiga guseka karimo karagusekera wahageze ukakica gusa ni nk'ikintu cyaje mu mitima igihu kirabudika icuraburindi riraza kuko nk'umuntu kugira ngo aguhagarare imbere nta mbaraga afite uzamura umuhoro cyangwa uzamira impiri umukubite ati mbabarira rwose nguhe n'amafaranga cyangwa mbabarire rwose nyijyanire ujye kuntunga ndi umukobwa mwiza ubyanjye uvuga uti oya ndakwishe nyine Genocide niyo dutekereje tugasubiza amaso inyuma tukabireba natwe biradushobera ntabwo rero ntabona uko nkigusubiza ariko igisubizo nabona cya bugufi ni ikintu cy'igihu ikintu cy'icuraburi ntakwita ngo ni ubujiji aho ntabwo ari ubujiji ni ubugome twakoranaga n'abandi bagenzi banjye mu Rwanda hirya no hino yewe n'abari abahunze badutereranye urugamba badushumuye bakigendera.
Ellie's word cruelty could not be more accurate. Cruelty is at the heart of genocide. The killers don't just eradicate the targeted people, but brutalize them in ways that far exceed what is needed to kill them. I see the evidence of such cruelty everywhere I go. I came to Guatemala where a massive effort has been underway to literally uncover the truth about the government's mass slaughter of 200,000 indigenous Maya during the 1980s. In these hills, the Guatemalan military conducted a scorched earth campaign against Maya and leftist insurgents. The Mayan people, they said, were inherently subversive and an impediment to progress. The government strategy was summed up in a grim aphorism of the time. To kill the fish, you have to drain the pond. Here in the mountain hamlet of Plan de Sanchez, they drained the pond on July 18, 1982.
Y ahí estamos nosotros en las casas con nuestras familias. Y toda la gente fue traída en sus casas, niñas y mujeres, y fue traída aquí, y aquí fue la masacre.
The military would separate the women and the men. Sometimes they would take the infants out of the women's arms and simply smash them on the ground, kill them right there in front of everybody. They cut tongues out. They opened pregnant women's bellies and dashed fetuses against trees. They burned people alive. We know this because there were people who, even in the midst of this mayhem and mass killing, somehow managed to hide behind a door, underneath a pile of corn husks, and watch.
So here, for example, we can see how, and if you want, I'll allow you to feel the difference so you can see this is a very sharp cut, and if you run your hand through it, it's very, very smooth. See, that was caused by a machete striking the right side of the head and also cutting the atlas. And you see when you match it up anatomically, you can see that this trauma here is related to this strike here. And basically what they try to do here is decapitate the person. Now, what we've seen usually is that these people were not very knowledgeable of anatomy, so the decapitations, as you'd expect, were not always successful. So you have repeated blows to the head. Somebody's trying to separate the head from the body. Very typical of overkill, and sometimes of even crimes of passion.
Overkill. There's a word I don't think I'll ever hear the same way again.
In these cases,
If the killers were simply doing their duty to wipe out an insurgency, as they claim, they would execute their victims quickly and be done with it. You have to wonder why we see so much evidence of such murderous passion, especially against women and children.
This is a